Francisco Frank Garcia II, the Black Latin Prince, president and founder of the original Historical Music Society of Detroit. I want to continue talking a little bit about our convoluted history, and we're going to go to Mr. A.J. Anthony Sparks. Anthony and I have known each other for many, many years, and of course, you know he knows all the rest of the fellows. We've all worked together on so many projects, it's been amazing. But A.J. and I used to rehearse down at Magic City when we were teenagers. What we didn't know is while we were rehearsing, we were actually laying tracks. So, of course, we didn't get paid for it, but when we didn't even find this out until years later. But just the fact that they used what we did showed us the quality of calibership of musicianship we had even as youngsters. A.J., tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you.
Okay, right now I'm working with the greatest musicians right now. But basically I've been producing and running a recording studio. I started recording with George Clinton, as someone says, as Dr. Funk. I made some money with him for Paisley Park with Prince.
All right.
Okay.
I happened to finally got some money out of Mr. George Clinton.
He deserves a round of applause.
I know that's right.
And, excuse me, right now we're basically working on a concert with George Clinton and the Funk Brothers, which is, honestly, I would like to really acknowledge this. When I met Frank Garcia, I actually did a recording session before then. Joe Hunter, I was 14 years old, Michael Henderson, Ray Parker, we had our first band together. First band. And Joe Hunter saw us over in Pennsylvania. At the time, that was Preacher. Preacher and them was older than me, and Chuck Boyd, and they used to watch it. We used to just suck up under these guys like magnets. I mean, they used to tell us, go away, go home. And but it was beautiful. They really put us more aspiring. So there's a guy over on the internet in 14 named Sonny Marshall. He had a little record company called Dottie Records. And that's when I become to meet the legendary Joe Hunter of the Funk Brothers. So they had a recording session. And we went over to United Sound, and they had waited for Jameson, and at the time they had Robert White, and Benny was out on one of his days, that particular day, Benny Benjamin, which is everybody know him as Papacito.
Yes.
And so they steady waiting, and Joe Hunter, he's impatient, and we got Charles Hooks, Marcus Belgrade, some of the greatest cats sitting there, and here little old me, 14 years old, I'm all enthused to see Benny Benjamin play. And so he didn't show up. So Sonny Marshall, Mr. Marshall says, Joe, well, maybe we'll have to do this a little later, sons. We can't wait no longer. So they tried to call George McGregor. They couldn't find him. So Joe Hunter said, well, we got a kid here. He plays well enough drums. Sonny say, oh yeah, but we still training them. Him and Michael, they good, they children, but this costing us a lot of money. So Joe Hunter say, well, what would it hurt? We here. If it don't work, we'll do it over. And so I sit down and played the drums, and after that, it was off and running.
All right. Amen.
And then I got to meet these great guys. Jimmy Lewis saw me start playing. I was playing with a group called the Detroit Emeralds for Westbound Record. I was doing that. Then I ran into Jimmy Lewis, and I finally got the chance to see, no, let me back that up. That is not the way it went. The way it went, as I used to sneak at, me and Michael Henderson, Ray Parker used to stand at his club on McClellan and Warren called the Parrot.
The Parrot.
Oh,
right.
The Parrot Lounge.
Parrot.
And behold, who was playing the keyboard? A guy named Thomas Postel.
that would be me.
And so my uncle, him and the owner of the bar was friends. So they would slip us in there, me and Michael and us, we'd be in the little back room where they had the booze and the beer and stuff. We back there in the storage room, sucking all of this stuff up. So finally, that's how I got to the playing with the Detroit Emeralds. And then next thing I knew, Jimmy Lewis says to me, I want you to get in the union. I like you, son. You guys are, how old are y'all? he asked Mom, he said, how old are these guys? Oh, they're 16 and 17. Well, they play like grown folks. So next thing I know, when I got a little older, next thing I wound up playing with Dr. Funk and the great Thomas Postel and the Fun Company. The next move was I started playing with the Dynamics, Fudge, and them. They had ice cream songs. So we went to New York. First I got hired, we went with Edwin Starr. He had 25 miles out. My first Motown session. They had Pistol to play it first. Then they turned around and did the session again. Then they had Yule play the session. They turned around and they raced it. At the time, me and Frank Garcia was over in Magic City, and when we cut the hit record on Hip Squeeze, so Edwin said, well, I know a kid, he's great on the drums, and he got that thing going on. And this is when I get to meet Tiki and Zach and all those, and Larry Andrews and Larry Talbot. We was the drummers, but we was the children drummers that was grown people. Children that was grown before their time. So if you ever want to know why they say kids, you don't have a kid like being a musician, it's true.
Very true.
You have to be grown quick. Because the professional guys don't have a time to think about you being a kid. Let's cut this flat track and it's over with. But my point of it is, really, I think all of us here have a great lot to say. But I've met two arrangers in my whole life that I always admired. And that was Joe Hunter and McKinley Jackson.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, give it up to me. I got to play on a session for Invictus. Me and Michael and Ray Parker that McKinley did the arrangement.
Alrighty.
And I said, when Brian Holland called us over at the time and Bob Dennis, I was trying to sneaky learn how to be an engineer too. I was always the nosy one. The guys in the band say, which one you gonna do? Be an engineer, play drums, or be a record producer? And I told all the guys, I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna save money. So I started watching. I met Bob Dennis, and matter of fact, the guy on this, me and Greg is the same age.
Greg Riley.
Yeah, he's our age. Bob took him as a kid, as an engineer, but his parents had money, and so why not? They invested into their studio. But basically, it started from there, and I wound up going with Westbound, and I wound up recording my another first record, Showtime, for Mr. Wingate. Detroit Emeralds. They was a gospel group at first, the Tillman brothers.
Right.
That's right. You understand? They sound spiritual. And what had happened was a guy, James Mitchell, his father was a number man, and James was a barber, and they had a barbershop quintet, and so they happened to see come over from Pennsylvania. Preacher and Chuck Boy, we'll go back to that again, saw us playing. They said, well, hey man, how old are these guys? Because we was, these young guys making $20. We ain't had no bills or nothing. Our parents put our money in our pocket. We go to the barbershop, get our hair all whipped up, wearing grown folks' clothes. They thought we were grown. We were still children. We were still 19 years old. We didn't get 21 yet, but we were doing grown folks' things. So we wind up with that group. And so Mr. Wingate said, well, these kids, we can't sign these. We got to get my parents' consent. They had us over there cutting records. So basically, 90% of my life playing with some of these great musicians here is me being in the studio, and I'm still in the studio. And that's what I love doing. And I play with Thomas at church, and I put my hand, soul, spirit, and God, and He's blessed me to still be here because a lot of my guys are gone. And to be with these guys is like, if you want to say Funk Brothers, second generation, well, here it is at this table. We have seen what they have contributed to bring to us. Now we got to contribute to bring to the next setup. And what I really have a part is they have took the music from the children today and teaching them shortcuts. There's no shortcut for playing music. When a guy takes 20 or 30 years of his life to learn to play an instrument, there is no shortcuts. And what society has done to the black musicians and the children is to begin to turn them into disrespectful with music, teaching the women, the young girls how to be, excuse my expression, not ladies, but another avenue, and begin to exploit black people. So this historic event here, if anybody is really paying attention, it needs to change back to real music. Because right now, all your venues in the system right now is old school. That's why Channel 56 and all of these other stations have beginning to make money, because no one's going to go out and pay $50 to see somebody with a tape recorder and a machine. Right. They want to see musicians, and they want to hear beautiful vocalists and great musicians, like at this table. So when you want to say the Funk Brothers, here it is.
All right.
Because we the last of the best. And the best is still at the table.
All right.
Very prolific. Thank you, AJ. Thank you.
All righty.